If you've watched daytime TV at any point in the last 20 years, you've seen the commercial. A friendly, familiar celebrity standing in a nice kitchen telling you that you can unlock the cash sitting inside your own home, keep living in it exactly like you always have, and never make another monthly mortgage payment again. It's your money. Why not use it? Sound familiar? Yeah. That's the reverse mortgage ad, and it has been running on basically every channel with a senior-heavy audience for decades now. And here's the thing. Underneath that cheerful kitchen set commercial is a genuinely useful financial tool, sitting right next to some genuinely nasty ways to get burned by it. So today, we're doing what those commercials never do, actually explaining how the thing works in plain English, no jargon, so you can tell the difference between the version that helps and the version that hurts. Let's start with the basic idea, because once you understand the flip, the rest makes a lot more sense. A normal mortgage works the way you'd expect. You borrow money from a bank to buy a house, and every month you pay them back, a little at a time, until eventually you own the place outright. A reverse mortgage takes that entire relationship and flips it upside down. Instead of you paying the bank every month, the bank pays you. You're still the owner of the home. You still live there. But instead of slowly paying down a loan, you're slowly borrowing against the value you've already built up in the house, what's called your home equity. And that money comes to you, not the other way around. To even qualify, you generally need to be 62 or older, and you need real equity built up in the home, meaning you either own it outright or you owe relatively little on your existing mortgage. Most of these loans in the U.S. are what's called a HECM, a home equity conversion mortgage, which is a mouthful, so just remember it's the version backed and insured by the federal government, which matters more than it sounds like, and we'll get to why in a minute. Let's actually put a number on this, because unlock your home's equity means nothing without some real math attached. Say your house is worth $400,000, and you own it free and clear. No existing mortgage left on it at all. Depending on your age and current interest rates, a reverse mortgage might let you access somewhere in the neighborhood of half that value, maybe a bit more. As cash, you can use however you want. New roof, medical bills, paying off a car, or just extra breathing room every month. That's real money sitting in a house that, until now, was just something you lived in rather than something you could actually spend. Now, how do you actually get the money? A few ways. You can take it as one lump sum up front. You can take it as steady monthly payments, kind of like handing yourself a paycheck out of your own house. Or, and this one's the option most people don't even know exists, you can set it up as a line of credit, where the money just sits there, available, growing a little larger over time the longer you don't touch it, ready whenever you actually need it. Some retirement planners actually use that line of credit version as a kind of financial safety net, sitting quietly in the background for years, untouched, just in case. So far, this probably sounds like a pretty sweet deal. Free money, stay in your house, no monthly bill. And that's exactly the part the commercials love to lean on. But here's where we need to slow down, because no monthly payment does not mean no responsibilities. You are still 100% the owner of that home, which means you are still on the hook for property taxes. You're still on the hook for homeowners insurance. You're still responsible for basic upkeep and maintenance. And here's the part that catches people off guard more than almost anything else in this entire product. If you fall behind on those taxes or that insurance, the lender can actually call the loan due and move toward foreclosure on a loan that was marketed to you as the thing that finally gets you out from under monthly bills. That contradiction alone is responsible for a genuinely painful number of families losing a home they thought was finally completely secure. All right, quick pause here because I want you in the comments for this one. If there's some obscure little corner of the economy you've stumbled across, some hidden market or financial quirk barely anyone talks about, drop it below. There's a genuinely good chance it turns into a future episode. Okay, back to the mortgage, because we still need to talk about where all that borrowed money actually comes from and where it eventually goes. Every dollar the bank pays you isn't free. It's a loan. And like any loan, it accumulates interest. Except unlike a normal mortgage where your balance shrinks every month as you pay it down, a reverse mortgage balance grows every single month because you're not making payments against it. The interest just keeps compounding on top of itself, year after year, quietly getting bigger the whole time you're living in the house. On top of that interest, there are real fees baked into these loans. An origination fee for setting it up, mortgage insurance premiums, closing costs, ongoing servicing fees, and all of that gets added to the growing balance too, which is exactly why these get marketed so aggressively on TV in the first place. Turns out, a loan that grows bigger every year, with fees baked in at the start, is a genuinely profitable product to sell, which is a pretty strong incentive to put a friendly, trustworthy face in a nice kitchen and run that ad on a loop for the next 2 decades. So here's the real trade-off, laid out plainly. The longer you stay in the home with a reverse mortgage, the bigger that loan balance grows, which means the less home equity is left over for you or eventually for whoever inherits the house. That's the honest version of reduced inheritance that gets glossed over in the 30-second commercial. It's not a scam exactly. It's just math that isn't exactly the star of the ad campaign. There's one more trap worth knowing, and it's a timing one. If you end up needing to move out within just a few years, say health reasons requiring assisted living, the loan becomes due at that point, which can force a sale of the home sooner than you'd planned, sometimes at a moment that's already stressful enough without adding a real estate transaction on top of it. And there's a family situation worth flagging too, especially if you're married. Historically, if only one spouse's name was on the reverse mortgage, and that spouse passed away first, the surviving spouse could actually face real risk of the loan coming due and losing the home, which, understandably, caused a lot of heartbreak and led to real changes in how these loans are structured over the years to try to protect a surviving spouse. Still, it's exactly the kind of detail that's easy to overlook in a 30-second commercial, and exactly the kind of question worth asking directly, by name, before either spouse signs anything. Now, with all of that said, here's the part that actually makes this product more interesting than a simple avoid it verdict. Because there is a genuinely solid safety net built into these loans that most people never hear about. They're what's called non-recourse loans, which means, and this is worth remembering, no matter how large that loan balance eventually grows, you, or your family after you, will never owe more than the home is actually worth when it's time to settle up. If the housing market drops, if the balance somehow outgrows the home's value, the federal insurance on the loan covers that gap. Nobody comes after your other savings. Nobody comes after your kids' bank accounts. The house is the full extent of the risk, guaranteed by law. So who does this actually make sense for? Generally, someone who plans to stay in their home for a long time, who is genuinely house rich but cash poor, meaning most of their net worth is tied up in a house they don't intend to sell, and who either doesn't have a strong need to leave that specific asset behind for heirs or has other assets they're planning to pass down instead. For someone in exactly that situation, a reverse mortgage can be a legitimate way to turn a house into livable retirement income without uprooting an entire life to do it. There's also a quieter, more strategic use case that financial planners sometimes bring up, and it's worth knowing even if it sounds a little backwards at first. Remember that line of credit option from earlier? The one that just sits there, growing, untouched? Some retirees set that up years before they actually need the money, specifically as a backup source of cash for a bad market year. The idea being, if the stock market takes a hit right when you need to withdraw retirement income, instead of selling investments at a loss, you pull from the reverse mortgage line of credit instead and let your investments recover before touching them again. It's a specific, somewhat advanced strategy, and definitely not a one-size-fits-all move. But it's a good example of how differently this tool can be used depending on who's holding it and why. And here's a genuinely useful, practical tip if you or someone in your life is actually considering one of these. Federal law requires independent third-party counseling through a UD-approved counselor, completely separate from the lender trying to sell you the loan, before you're even allowed to close on a HECM. That requirement exists precisely because, for years, this product got sold with a lot more enthusiasm than explanation. If a lender ever tries to rush you past that counseling step, or makes it feel like a box to check rather than something worth actually sitting through, that alone should tell you everything you need to know about how much they want you to actually understand what you're signing. This video is here to make sure you walk into that conversation already knowing the real mechanics, not just the kitchen commercial version. Whether it's the right move for your specific situation is genuinely worth working through with that independent counselor, and ideally a financial advisor who knows your full picture before signing anything. Thanks so much for watching this one all the way through. If you enjoyed digging into this strange, hidden little corner of the economy, stick around. There are a lot more of these invisible systems hiding in plain sight, and I'll see you in the next video.